final review with the broadcaster and journalist Bidisha and CEO of International Marketing Partners, Alison Stewart. Alan, so welcome back to both of you. We're looking inside the papers, but the first story that you've picked out, Bidisha, did actually make a later edition of the Sun's front page, and I imagine that a lot of the papers have been revising their front pages to reflect the death of Mohammed Al-Fayed.
I'm really just wanting to pay a little bit of a tribute because he, for all his wealth, this is a man who lost his son in a horrible, shocking car accident. And we talk so much about the death of Princess Diana, and we don't talk so much about the death of Dodi Al-Fayed. Mohammed Al-Fayed was such an interesting figure because on the one hand, he's so successful, he's so wealthy, and yet he's treated a little bit, not as a laughingstock, but a bit like a cartoon character, because he wore his desire to belong very much on the surface, and he was trying so hard to be literally at the heart of London society. You know, literally at the center of things, of all this luxury and wealth and connections, and yet he was always just a little bit set aside from it. And I wanted to just remind people that all that wealth and connection and privileges, it doesn't make up for what's happening in your family story. It doesn't make up for tragic things that have happened. And so I see him not as a cartoonish figure at all, or even a tragic figure, but just someone more nuanced than what we've usually seen. And of course, he was surrounded by friends and family. He's died of natural causes. He's had a very long life, very rich, sometimes scandalous life. I would love to see it made into a movie because it would be so exciting and so interesting. But he was a person and not just a headline. And I really just am appreciating those papers that are covering it today.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of them will cover them in later editions,
yes,
and in the Sundays tomorrow as well. Let's move to the Times next, though, Alison.
Yep.
And this is a fascinating story that you would fill me in a little bit.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Yes.
About technology helping to root out fakes.
Absolutely. So if you're in the luxury industry and you want to try to minimize people making knockoffs, one of the best ways now is to use the blockchain technology. And basically what blockchain is a method, it's a ledger. It's a way of recording each step of that particular handbag, jumper, shoes, whatever it is, from the time of creation to the time of sale, so that it has a chip embedded in the physical product, and you can use your phone now, hold it next to the chip. It's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth enabled. I mean, the technology is quite interesting that you can see the journey, pretty much, of this item. And it reassures you that this isn't just off the back of a van in a street market, that this is a legitimate
and that
product.
Can't be faked.
And that cannot be faked,
okay,
because each part of the ledger, each recorded step in the manufacturing process, the shipping process, that ledger is published and held by multiple people simultaneously. And once that ledger entry is created, it cannot be changed. So it's really interesting that you can now, you know, I guess maybe this is a fantastic selling point for the luxury industry, is that, you know, you're not going to get the backstory of this item if you buy it on a street market. But if you buy it legitimately at a retail store where these luxury brands are sold, you will see the journey that your item took, where the leather was sourced. Is that ethical? So the other thing is the auditability of it. You can see that the leather comes from a reliable source. It's not from cows or sheep or who, you know, that have been harmed, etc.
I guess the one thing it won't do is stop people wanting to buy fakes, but it might stop people being ripped off.
Yes.
They'll actually know what they're getting, I guess.
Yes.
Anyway, let's move to the Mirror next, and a number of the papers do cover this, and this is increased regulation potentially around some cosmetic procedures?
We are all, of course, not only great beauties, but natural beauties as well. But no judgment on anyone who looks in the mirror and they're not totally happy with it. But as we know, these days you can walk past any sort of hair salon or nail bar on the street and you'll see a notice in the corner saying, "We do Botox." Anyone would think this is crazy. Surely you have to be absolutely registered with medical training, years and years of practice? No, not always. And so finally, after this article says 900,000 Botox injections happening, not all
to the same person.
Not all to the same face. I do need to say that. But we've all seen the horror stories of people who are not adequately trained doing this procedure on patients or clients, and their lips swelling up, or them having numbness or unevenness, and all sorts of terrible consequences from bad Botox and bad fillers and bad all the rest of it, that finally there's pressure on the government to say, look, you can't just do a 2-day training course and inject strangers full of stuff without any medical training.
Yeah, because devastating if it doesn't go right. I love the way you talked about walking past the hairdressers. We haven't all been to the same hairdresser. Even though we do.
It might look like it, yes.
We have. Anyway, both you have very lovely hair. And thank you for your company this morning, taking us through the papers. Bidisha and Alison, thanks very much.
Thank you.